Hello and welcome everyone back to the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel for another video. Today is part two of the series of ranking all 18 AFL clubs based on positions. If you haven't checked out last week's, make sure you go watch part one. This same group went and ranked all 18 clubs based on their key defensive pairings. Today we're going to be doing the key forward pairings, which were, for me personally, was a lot harder to rank. But before we'll get into it, I'll introduce the crew we've got here. We've got our resident video man and Port fan, Anthony. How you going, mate?
Good to be back, Jacko. Lovely that we are back under this stress again. So thank you very much for having me back.
You're very welcome as always, mate. The Inner Sanctum's Saints man, Jared Thomas.
This one has put me under so much pressure. I hated this. This has been so much to do, but I'm looking forward to it.
And the only man who enjoyed this task, Brandon, the Carlton fan. Brando, how you going?
I definitely didn't enjoy this task, but I'm good, Jacko. I'm happy to be here, despite the strenuous task that we've been put to. So yes. I'm ready.
Okay, well, it's the same as last week. We've got together and figured out which all 18 teams, and we've got the same pair. We've all done the same pair from each team. We're going to run through those just so you know off the top who we're ranking. We don't have to mention them by name every single time. For Adelaide, we've got Darcy Fogarty and Taylor Walker. For Brisbane, we've got Joe Danaher and Eric Hipwood. Carlton, Charlie McKernow and Harry Mackay. Collingwood has Brody Myercheck and Ash Johnson. Essendon has Sam Wiedemann and Harry Jones. Fremantle, Jai Amos and Luke Jackson. Geelong, Jeremy Cameron and Tom Hawkins. Gold Coast, Ben King and Levi Casbolt. GWS, Jesse Hogan and Harry Himmelberg. Hawthorn, Mitch Lewis and Fergus Green. Melbourne, Jacob van Rooyen and Tom McDonald. North Melbourne, Nick Larkey and Cam Zerha. Port Adelaide, Charlie Dixon and Todd Marshall. Richmond, Tom Lynch and Jack Rewalt. St Kilda has Mitch Owens and Tim Membry. Sydney has Logan McDonald and Lance Franklin. West Coast, Oscar Allen and Jack Darling, and Western Bulldogs, Aaron Norton, Jamara Ugle-Hagan. We did take into account injuries and all of the like. We figured these were the easiest ones. We've all got different criteria. I'm sure we'll explain as we go through. Without further ado, we may as well get started. We've got a lot of work to go here. JT, who do you have in 18?
I think when I first sort of looked at everyone, I had an idea of who was going to be in 18th. And then as I sort of looked at everything and as I sort of really worked it out, I think I changed to this side. It's weird because looking at the ladder, they're really not that bad. They're ninth, but it's Essendon. It's Sam Wiedemann and it's Harrison Jones. Look, I don't know how to sort of word it, but like both them, like they just sort of nothing really strikes me as overly amazing about these guys. Wiedemann, I think, has got flashes, and I think he will sort of grow into the role as he gets in. But I think Harrison Jones sort of explains for himself. He's in and out of the side and hasn't nailed down a spot at all, and he's sort of really sort of flopping between. So I think these are the worst duo we've got here. Again, if Peter Wright is around, obviously a different story. I think this changes completely. But with the two that they've got at hand, Harrison Jones and Sam Wiedemann, I know that they're playing well, but those two they can't quite do it. They're not very accurate with the ball, kicking a goal. And I think they've got a lot, but it's a lot of eye test. But yeah, these guys I think have got the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah, I'm going to follow off the back of you here. I've also got Essendon in 18th. It was hard to sort of put him here. I didn't think I'd have him down here. Sam Wiedemann's actually been playing, I think, pretty good this season. 11 goals, kicking at 68%, which puts him actually in like the top 15% of these names. So he probably deserved to be a bit higher, but unfortunately, Harry Jones just didn't had the best start to the year. We hate to see him injured. Hopefully he recovers with that back injury, but he's kicked 2 goals from his 5 games. He's got kicking accuracies at 28%, which is the equal lowest of these 36 names. And I think the most glaring thing for me is when he plays and Essendon go inside 50, there is a 0.59% chance that inside 50 is going to end up with a goal to Harry Jones. That, to me, I think is just really glaring, especially when you see some of the percentages of these other names. So that's why I've got him in 18th. Brando, if you want to take us with yours.
Yes, good thing you took it with me because at the 11th hour, I also changed to Wiedemann and Jones. I also didn't think I'd have them there for the longest time, but when you look deeper into it, there's not really much that they afford that other teams don't for me. And I tossed up whether it made sense, but Wiedemann's been okay at times and Harry has plenty of upside, but for me, there were a few factors that meant I couldn't really get him off the bottom. So sorry, Bombers fans, but you're 18th.
3 from 3. Are we going to make it 4, Ant?
Lock in the quaddie, boys. We've got this one home.
This is easy.
These two were written down as soon as you came up with this idea. This was 18th locked and loaded. There was not much thought process behind this. I'm glad you guys have gone first and explained everything that pretty much needs to be said. Wiedemann's been very, very impressive coming over from Melbourne. He's taken his opportunity, obviously with Peter Wright being out. I think he's stood up and is probably going to work really well when Peter does come back eventually. But yeah, that poor Harry Jones just hasn't found that kind of touch that he's probably wanted so far. And I do back him in to find that. But at the moment, yeah, they're lucky they've got the likes of Stringer and a couple of others down there because he's not kicking too many goals.
Absolutely. I think I'll jump in here and sort of explain some of my judging process. I'm basing mine 99% off this season alone, but I'm not taking too much of the body of work into it. We also should clarify that we're filming this before round 9. So this will probably come out after round 9, but we didn't get to see any of that. So, which is why we might not reference any of those things. But yes, basing it off just this year is why Hawthorn lands at my 17 spot. Fergus Green's done really well. They've sort of been without a key forward for most of this time. So I think Fergus Green's actually really impressed me going at. He's kicked 11 goals in his 8 games. He's almost taken 1.5 contested marks a game. So, 1.5 goal assists. And then Mitch Lewis, obviously, we can't read too much into his averages, but 3 goals from his 2 games back. He's kicking at about 45%, taking the marks inside 50, giving the goal assists. He looks okay, and he looks like he's still going to be a star. It's just hard to rank these guys much higher when they're performing as the way they are. Brando, if you want to go now.
Yeah, this is really good from us. I've also got Lewis and Green in 17th. We're doing all right so far after the debacle last week. But yeah, it was really a toss-up between the Hawks and Bombers for me. And what really won it was Lewis. I mean, he's been immense since he came back in marking contests. He's great. Averages 8 scoring involvements a game. So because of him, and also Fergus Green, as you said, has been pretty impressive as well when he was by himself. So they just sneak into 17.
Absolutely. Jared, you got anything for us here?
I'll specify sort of what my criteria is for here. I put a little bit more effort to body of work over a little bit of time, not sort of a massive amount of time, but I've sort of given history a little bit more of a look in than just sort of this year. But even still, ex-boys, I'm also with Hawthorn at 17th. So Fergus Green and Mitch Lewis. I have nothing to say that you guys haven't already said, kind of thing. I think, yeah, Fergus Green's been really impressive this year. And then Mitch Lewis, as we know, I think this is where that sort of body of work comes in. He was really impressive last year, but they haven't really done enough to put him above the other teams on my list.
Anthony, it's back to you. We're going to go 4 from 4 twice in a row.
I've never hit 2 quaddies in my life, but we have tonight. Seriously, that is unbelievable. Yeah, Fergus Green, Mitch Lewis. I'm not going to say you guys have obviously wrapped up everything that probably needs to be said with those two. I will say, just give them some time, and I think they're going to develop into a very good pairing. I know Kajitsky will come back as well. Fergus Green is definitely showing a lot of promise, and Mitch Lewis just needs probably a bit of time from coming back. So it's nothing probably against them. It's more the fact that they probably just need a little bit more time together. They'll gel, and Hawthorn probably have a good crop of forwards down there, obviously, and Bruce is leading the charge as well. So I think they'll get there, but they've got to sit 17th at the moment.
Very good. 4 from 4 twice in a row here. I'll let you go first this time, Ant, and see if you can kick off our third.
Yeah, 16th. I've got the Saints. I've got Membry and Owens, and it's probably more the fact that I think if St Kilda have Max King, this pairing of Owens and King, I reckon, are probably going to be a top 5 key forward pairing coming in the next couple of years. King, even though he's been injured, when he does come back, he slides straight in. Membry can probably get freed up a little bit more. He has performed really well, and obviously St Kilda do play better when he is in the side, as we've seen Carlton. They did lose to Port. But I think, I don't know. It's hard to pick with these two because you don't know where they're going to land. And Owens has been very, very impressive. Like, he'd be top 3 rising star at the moment. But it's nothing against them. And I'm sorry, Jared. But, yeah, I think they just land 16th purely on, if we're going to base it on this season, I think there's a lot better pairings out there. And if we're going to base it on a body of work, I think it's more looking forward than backwards.
Absolutely, Anthony. You've made me feel a lot better. I also have the Saints in 16th. These guys were actually really hard to put this low. I've loved watching Mitchy Owens go about it this season. First year player, he's kicked 13 goals, taking almost 1.5 contested marks a game. That's top 30 in the league at the moment. He's getting like 13% of the Saints shots on goal. He's just been absolutely incredible. But it's just fallen down a bit with Tim Membry. He'll come into form as the season goes on, I'm sure, but it's just the 3 games aren't, I guess, what we're used to. He's kicked 3 goals and a goal actually of 28.6%, tied with Harry Jones. So just hasn't sort of grown into it, but I also obviously expect him to grow into it as the season comes along and be better when Max King, as you said. Just one last thing. The Saints are ranked last for total goal contributions between these two, and they're only 0.1 goals above Essendon between the key pairing. So that's me for that one. I'll go to our Saints fan, JT, with your 16th.
I don't blame you for putting us that low. I didn't. Personally, I'm going to break the streak, everyone. I'm very sorry. It hurts me to do that. Now I'm going to look like a biased Saints fan, but I didn't put them that high. It's fine. This one kind of hurts me a little bit because I really like one of them. But the other one I think just drags it down for me. And this is the West Coast pair. I've got Oscar Allen and Jack Darling. A lot of people are going to have that higher. Because of how good Oscar Allen has been, and I'm not taking anything away from him. He has been phenomenal this year. But I just think that sort of pairing with Darling just doesn't always work. I think if we, how do I say this without getting it cut out of the video? If we just put Oscar Allen just in the video, just in as himself, I think they'll probably finish higher. I think if we put Darling in, it's just. He's unbelievable, as we know, but I think Jack Darling really brings it down. And this is a lot of eye test, though. You know, he's kicked 10 goals from his 8 games. And he just sort of, he's gotten quite old and he just sort of is slow, much slower now, and drags it down. And I think this is very eye test based because I hate doing this because of how good Oscar Allen has actually been. But I just don't think this key forward duo is going to drag them anywhere soon. And it's showing on the ladder. You know, we like to sort of narrow the stats in a little bit, but West Coast are 17th on the ladder right now with a pretty woeful percentage, and that's probably just due to the fact that key forward duo can't really lead them with the injuries and things that they have. So I put the West Coast duo there, but I know that's probably going to be a bit divisive.
That's an interesting call. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Brando, if you want to take us into your 16th.
I will go with Tom McDonald and Jacob Van Rooyen from Melbourne. Again, I kind of like what JT said with West Coast. It felt weird because I do like Jacob Van Rooyen. He's been super impressive coming into the side for his age as well. And while McDonald's coming sort of towards the twilight of his career, he can still do a job. I just couldn't justify putting them any higher than the ones up above him. So, yeah, keep it simple. Got them 16th.
Very good. I'll jump in here with the first of 15th. This sucked. I've got Collingwood. I've got Collingwood here. Now, Brody Myercheck deserves to be so much higher. He has been incredible this season. He's kicked 19 goals, good efficiency. He's getting about 15% of the highest shots on goal. He has been incredible. He kicked 5 against my boys, the Swans, last weekend. Absolutely tore us apart. Unfortunately, Ash Johnson just hasn't hit the highs that we saw last season. He's just not, I guess, kicking the goals that we expected him to kick. He's had if I can get up here now, he's kicked 7 out of his 6 games. He's gone about 1.2, but he's kicked 7 behinds as well. His goal kicking it's at 46%. He's not providing any goal assists. He's at 0.1 a game. But what really lets it down for me is the 2 games that he's only played 6 of the 8 games. When he didn't play those games, Collingwood operated 5% more efficiently inside forward 50. Now that doesn't sound like much, but of these 36 players, the next lowest percentage was 2.3%. So it's more than double the next person. And I just haven't sort of been impressed with what Ash Johnson's given. And this feels low, and I feel bad for Brody Myercheck, but Ash Johnson's obviously a star. He's going to be better than what he has been so far, but it just hasn't been enough for me to rank him any higher. Brando, if you want to kick us off with yours.
Yeah, 15th, I've got Luke Jackson and Jai Amos. Jackson started slow at Freo. and there are a lot of questions early on about how he was settling, but he's proven those to be unwarranted. I think in the last few games, he's starting to come into his own. And Amos, much like Van Rooyen before, as I said, he's been pretty impressive for his age. They probably don't match up statistically with who I have above them, but the Dogs as a whole have struggled as well. So that's probably not doing them any favours. So for now, they're 15th, but they're easily going to climb in the next few years.
Absolutely, Anthony.
Yeah, I'm the same as Brando. The Freo pairing for me, I think they've dry missed the mark at the moment, those two. So I think it's more of a future thing. You know, it's only 8 games in, 9 games coming up, and I think they need a bit more of a chemistry down there. And Jackson's starting to find his feet, and Amiss has impressed, but I don't know. Maybe it's just Freo just not as impressive as they were last year. Maybe as a whole, it does bring them down a little bit more. But I got not much more to add to that. I think it's just that's where they are at the moment.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. JT with your 15.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on that Melbourne train from before. I've got Van Rooyen and McDonald. This is one of those pairings where it's sort of really weird because none of the key forwards seem to be getting a lot of games for Melbourne at the moment. As we know, Ben Brown's obviously out of that side as well. Tom McDonald's in and out. Van Rooyen's kind of the only one that locked in a spot, and we are recording this literally probably 2 hours after Van Rooyen just got let off and he's able to play this week, which is good for Melbourne because I think he's sort of been the one that has been good for them. But, other than sort of the goals that they've kicked and things, they've been really accurate. They've been one of the most accurate teams in the league, this duo. But other than goals, I sort of look for the key forwards to be taking marks in that inside 50, and they don't really do that. Van Rooyen's ranked 53rd, Tom McDonald's ranked 65th in the league, which, obviously there's a lot of players, but for key forwards, I think they need to sort of bump those numbers up a bit, and I just don't sort of see them carrying. And the goals come from plenty of different areas. Bailey Fritsch is there, and Bailey Fritsch is one of the best sort of medium forwards in the league where he can play either small or tall. They've got Cozzy Pickett, they've got players. They've got Cade Chandler, who's having an incredible year. So I think they sort of more rely on those other forwards, and some don't rely on these guys so much. So I've got them in 15th.
Absolutely. I'm going to roll off the back of you because I had these guys in 14th. Jacob Van Rooyen's been incredible. He's been I'm pretty sure he's been the key forward that's played for them the most this season, which is incredible for a 20-year-old key position player who's played 6 games. Obviously, they've got Cozzy. I think Cozzy, Cade Chandler, and Bailey Fritsch is the only 3 demons that have kicked more goals than him. There's 54 players in the league that have kicked 10 goals this season, and Jacob Van Rooyen is the only player of those to have an accuracy of 80%. And he's going at 84%. He's been incredible when he's in front of goals. He just doesn't miss. Tom McDonald as well has been really good. They're taking marks inside 50. They're competing. They operate well together. But whenever they play, the Demons are more efficient inside 50. And I just think I'm pretty happy with what I'm seeing from those two. Anthony, if you want to go with your 14.
Yeah, I've got Allen and Darling, and it's such a shame that West Coast aren't in good touch at the moment, because if Allen is in a top 6 side, then he would probably be up there with Cameron and Curnow at the moment. I think he is playing above and beyond what I thought he'd come back with this year. And it's a shame they can't get... you got Waterman down there as well, and I don't want to forget about him because he has been in good touch at a few occasions this year. And Darling, as JT said, wasn't particularly playing too well this year. So it is a bit of a shame. He's kicking goals. It's very hard to man up on someone like him, especially when he's capable of playing in the ruck as well. And I think, give it a year or so, and if he's playing like this and West Coast actually find a bit of touch, then that pairing could be, I hope they find another pairing for him, because he's genuinely just going to be, he's one of my favourite players right now, is Oscar Allen. And it hurt me to put him 14th because he's solo. Yeah. That's it. Right. That's all I'll say.
Brando?
This is where I've got Owens and Membry. I think it was, as you have said before, it was tough to rank him here. Owens has been outstanding, really. And as Ant said, probably top 3 for the Rising Star right now behind Sheasel and Ashcroft. But he's impressive with the ball in hand. He's kicking goals, hard at it, absolutely brilliant in the contest. So I can't really fault him considering where he's at. Membry makes it difficult because he's come in this season. He's not really been up to standard, but I think I am taking body of work into account, and we know what he's capable of. And when Max King is back in and they're all back at full flight, he's going to be good. So, but bumped him up a little bit because of that, but yeah, 14th.
Absolutely. JT, round us out with 14.
Yeah, this is where I've got the Collingwood pair in Myercheck and Johnson, and I'm pretty much the exact same as Jacko in that I love Reid Myercheck so much. I think he's absolutely incredible, and I think it is the Ash Johnson pairing that really brings it down. But Collingwood's sort of that team where, and they've always sort of been like that in the last few years, where they don't really rely on the key forwards too much, and I think what that means is usually they have Mason Cox playing there instead of Ash Johnson. And I actually think this one's sort of a weird call, but Mason Cox makes Collingwood a really good football side. And I think if he's playing in that side, they actually get a lot better purely because even if he doesn't get the ball, he has to drag defenders with him because he's 200 and whatever centimeters. He has to take people with him. And it opens up the space for the likes of Myercheck and Elliott and those sorts of players. So the fact that Collingwood are this low on the list with the record that they're at their top of the ladder right now, it doesn't mean anything. You can't take anything off Collingwood because they know how to play football without the key forward duo. There's only 4.2 goal contributions combined between these two guys, which is pretty low compared to a lot of the other sides in the league. So they don't rely on these guys, and that's all it is. It's nothing against Collingwood at all. That's just how the duo works. But I do love Myercheck. I think it's just that pairing isn't obviously one of the best in the league.
Absolutely. They might be ranked low for us here, but without spoiling the defenders, we all had them pretty high last week. So I'll go back to our sports scientist, JT, talking about Mason Cox with 200 and whatever centimetres. You can kick us off with 13th.
This is where I've got my boys. I've got Owens and Membry. This is, like I was saying before, a bit of body of work for Membry. He hasn't been good this year. I'm fully aware of that since he came back in. Obviously, Mitch Owens. I love Mitch Owens. He's incredible. He has been a shining light for us, and sort of after last year, he was sort of the one of the three draftees that we got that didn't really take off as much as the other two. Windhager and Naz had the big years last year, and now that Owens sort of had that forward line free up with all the injuries, he has flourished and turned into one of those key forwards where he's undersized and he can still take a massive mark, but he also can play as a small forward and crumb and kick those running goals. So Mitch Owens is one of those guys that can kind of take a lot of the ball around the ground. But the stats sort of speak for themselves about how sort of little the key forwards do, and it's just because we don't have any key forwards. No Max King obviously means a lot, but yeah, with the lowest in goal contributions combined with only 3 marks inside 50 combined, 2.3 average goals combined, it's low. So we're a low side, and that's completely understandable. But sort of it's more Owen's work around the ground and Membry's body of work that I think puts him up at my 13th spot anyway.
Yeah, you guys have just had enough forward half injuries to shake a stick out this season, JT. You can't do too much with it.
That's pretty good.
Anthony, I'll go back to you for 13.
Yeah, this is where I got Myercheck and Johnson. It's a funny thing how Collingwood structure their forward line because, as you guys have said, they don't rely on a big key forward, and I think it's more their structures that make these two are less accountable as such. So when you come up against a team, you always want to play your two big key defenders on a team's two big key forwards. When it comes to these two, I'll use Port Adelaide for an example. We've always had a Jonas play on a Myercheck, and then you'll have like a Ryan Burton play on an Ash Johnson, and it throws your structures completely. So with these two, it sort of becomes they're almost sacrificing their game. And Myercheck, we've seen, can kick bags of goals, and Johnson, as you stated, brings his pairing down a little bit. But I still think they're role players that are so crucial to the forward structure of Collingwood that they probably can be higher if they got a couple of goals on the board and actually had a better presence. But I think it's more their sacrifice for their forward 50 entries is what these two do that creates Collingwood to be so dangerous up forward.
Very good. Brando, round us out. Oh, sorry, just no. Go.
Good.
Yeah.
I think at this point, Collingwood fans are sort of relying on me to push their boys up the list, but I'll take them off as well. I've also got them at 13. Myercheck's been brilliant this year. I mean, I'm not going to bat on for too long because you've all said that he's stood up when their keys have sort of been all over the place with all the ruck injuries. He's really stood up and been that presence for him. And then in terms of Ash Johnson, I mean, he's not been really good statistically speaking, but he's good on the eye test, and some of the moments that he's pulled out have been outstanding. But I just think, I mean, as you all explained, as a duo, they don't really match up to who I have above them. So, yeah, Collingwood at 13.
Very good. I'll round us out here, and I'll copy Brando from just a bit before. I'll be the second one to mention the Fremantle pair. I really wanted to. These guys unlike some of the teams below them, it's not like there's one standout and one that's sort of dragging them down. These guys are both just really, really solid forwards. I wanted to put them a bit higher, but I just couldn't really justify putting them above some of the teams that sit just above them. Like they're both good. They're taking marks inside forward 50. They're both sort of top 50 in marks inside 50 in contested marks. They're taking a combined about 20% of the team's shots on goal. Amos has obviously kicked the 7. Luke Jackson's kicked the 8. Brando said it before. Luke Jackson's had a slow start to his time at Fremantle. So that I think in 2 or 3 years' time, these two could very well be a top 5 pairing. But so far this year, I think that's just sort of what how it's rounded out. I'll bounce back to Brando if you want to kick us off with 12.
Yes, this is where I've got Ben King and Levi Casbolt from the Gold Coast Suns. I mean, King's outstanding. He's I mean, obviously you have that period off and it's going to be hard to settle in, but he's well back into full flight now, kicking goals. Casbolt's getting on a bit, but he's still a good mark. They're both very accurate in front of goal, and they're both running over 70% goal accuracy, which is probably, I don't know where it sits as in terms of where they rank as a pairing across the comp, but King at 78%, Casbolt at 71%. They're really accurate in front of goal. So I think King is brilliant, and as a duo, they're good enough for 12 for me.
Absolutely. Off the top of my head, I think they'd only be second to Melbourne, maybe. But those two obviously get a lot more volume and put a lot more shots through. I'll jump in here with something that might be a bit of a shock. And this is, I think, where basing it off this season alone has really hurt. And it really hurts me to put these two down here. This is where I've got Sydney. It's putting... At the start of the year, we couldn't have even fathomed putting Buddy down this low in any forward ranking system. It was hard. I think we're just seeing the end of Buddy's career. Logan McDonald is doing a great job. He's kicking it above 70% as well. He's put through I think he's averaging about 1.8 a game. If I'm correct, yeah, 1.9 a game. Sorry, Buddy's still putting through 1.4, but Buddy's going at 38% goal accuracy. Buddy's also career low in goal assists. Like one of Buddy's greatest things has been his field kicking and the ability to set up teammates, and he's just not doing that this season. The Swans operate more efficiently going inside forward 50 when Buddy doesn't play. We're about 0.5% better when the games he missed. It hurts. Obviously it sucks to put these two down this low, but unfortunately that's just where I've got them. Anthony.
Yeah, this is look at the Melbourne pair. A lot has been said. You guys have said it, so I'm not going to go too much on it. I think more so it's an eye test thing, and it's another one that I mentioned before about Collingwood's forward structures. A lot of the D's goals come through Fritsch, and if Ben Brown was playing, they probably would have a couple more positions on this. So I won't touch too much on it. I think they're good, solid forwards, and they get a bit of consistency, and I'm glad Van Rooyen got off because multiple reasons. But I think, they probably sit about here, but they have so much potential to go further.
Yeah, so that's interesting, actually, that Ben Brown isn't injured. Van Rooyen is just keeping him out of the side. So it's just a testament to how well that kid's playing.
Yeah, and I honestly think that if Ben Brown was playing with him, I think that'd be a better side. I mean, they're already fantastic, but I think up forward, I think Ben Brown is probably a little bit more viable. I say, but that's just a personal opinion.
Well, mind you, Tom McDonald isn't playing this weekend either. It's just they're not playing many key forwards, and we just had to fit them in. Get back on topic. Jump to JT to round out our 12.
This is where I've got the Freo pair. I have been really impressed with Amiss this season. I think he's been really, really impressive for them. And I think Brando said it before, Freo sort of as a whole have struggled. And especially Luke Jackson as well. I think it's nothing sort of against Luke Jackson. It's just the way that he has to come over to a new side, and he's got a whole new role now where, he's sort of trying to be more of a forward than he ever sort of had to sort of be, where he's in that Melbourne side where he had a lot of players around him. But I wouldn't justify putting them any higher than this. This is sort of just a bit of eye test, but a bit of just sort of how they've played as a whole this season. Freo haven't been very attractive to watch. And it's just sort of as it seems, Jai Misses has done really well for them though, and they've been 2.75% more efficient when he's in there. So I think he's sort of what they need right now, and he will improve. And like I think Ant said before, give him a few years, and this will be one of the sort of the premier forward joys in the comp. But yeah, right now they've just sort of just lacked a little bit.
Very good. Into 11. Brando, if you want to start us off.
Yes, I can do that. I was first to take Gold Coast off the board. I'm going to be first to take North off the board as well. I've got Larky and Zerha at 11. Larky speaks for himself. I mean, he's truly a beast in front of goal. He's shown that. It's difficult when a team is rebuilding because he's perhaps not getting that constant delivery, and he's been probably a little bit inconsistent because of that. But as they improve, he's young and he's going to be the centerpiece of that. And then Zerha's also shown the signs. He's so versatile, absolute bull. Really hard to stop when he's on, but I think I had reasons to put other teams above him. So yeah.
Very good. Anthony?
And I've got the Roos pair. I think Larky carries this massively. Zerha is probably not a classified key forward, but I think as a duo, they do work quite well, and they're starved of opportunities. Like if they got given ample amount of inside 50s and shots on goal, I reckon Larky would kick a lot more bags, because every time he does kick goals, boy, does he kick bags. There's 6, 7, 5. Throw him in there. Like every time he gets ample opportunity, he's taking that. So, and Zerha is very crafty. It's a pity that when he does have a few shots, they don't go through the big sticks. But they probably sit there, and anyone in this bottom 6, bottom 7 duo, they have a lot of potential. And I think if North become a better side, these two will be right up there.
Absolutely. Before I throw to JT here, I think we've done very well. We've all got very consistent, I think, bottom halves of the table, which is very much unlike last week, and we're all very panicked going into this. We know what's going on. JT, back to you for 11.
I might throw a little bit of a spanner in the works here now that I'm sort of looking at the stats more. I've done this again. This one's kind of interesting to me. I've got the Giants pair. Now, I don't know how much of a sort of that throws. But this is a pretty eye test based one. If you listen to the glass table, you'll know my opinion of Jesse Hogan. But I don't think Jesse Hogan's bad at all. I just think he's sort of one of those players that he's always going to be there, and he'll always kick a couple and here and there. But I think he's not as consistent as he should be. And then Harry Himmelberg has been really impressive this season, especially in those sort of clutch moments. He seems to just pop up just constantly, Himmelberg. And he's sort of one of those players where, not to spoil the defenders video, but I said about how sort of the two key defenders and then Toby Green and Harry Himmelberg are kind of that Giants sort of war. And I think Himmelberg's sort of the one that brings this together. Even though he hasn't kicked all that many goals, he's sort of one of the ones that's really dragging them sort of up in this little pairing thing that I've got. But yeah, this is very sort of eye test based. And it's just sort of a pairing where I don't think the Giants will ever sort of hit the next sort of heights with this sort of duo, obviously if you had Jeremy Carroll like they did how many years ago, this is a ridiculously different story, but I just don't think this sort of duo of Hogan and Himmelberg is ever going to sort of put them in a spot to contend.
Absolutely. I'll be the second one to join Brando once again. We're taking Gold Coast off the board. This was a really interesting conversation I was trying to have earlier. Like, how high do you rank a pair like Ben King and Levi Casbolt? Ben King is incredible. Coming off that injury, as Brando said before, comes straight back in. He's kicked 18 goals over the 8 games. He's averaging over 2 a game. He's going at 78% by foot when he's aiming on goal. He's just phenomenal. He's kicking like 5, almost 6% of the time Gold Coast go inside 50. It finishes in Ben King kicking a goal. Like that's up there as like one of the best in the league. He's just getting that much volume and he's competing. He's really helping propel that Gold Coast into what we think they can do this season. As Casbolt's been good as well. He's also above 70% as Brenda said. I think the second rank combined out of this group. He's kicking so very active like he wasn't at Carlton. He's still taking the typical marks. Unfortunately, I can't put him above anyone else. Like their bottom half got combined average goals and marks inside 50. So I think they just fall just in this bottom end of the table. And I'm actually going to double back because I'm following JT here in 10. I've got the Giants as well. Both the Giants guys just get the job done. There's nothing outstanding about them. They go and get it done. They've both kicked 10 goals for the year, which is actually pretty good. Hogan's averaging 2 a game. But they're both sort of mid-50s in goal accuracy, which I think is something that I've really taken a lot on this in these rankings. They're getting about combined 10% of Gold Coast sort of GWS's shots on goal. Jesse Hogan's taking his contested marks and marks inside 50, And like we said, Harry Himmelberg's been a bit of a swing man, so that's just where it falls for me. Anthony, with your 10?
Yeah, Gold Coast for me. King and Casbolt. I love Kingy. I love Ben King. I think he generally, I'm glad that he's out there kicking bags of goals, doing the stuff that I wish he was doing last year, because Gold Coast are in a position now where they probably need that next step. And if Ben King is out there and kicking his 3-4 a game, and he's kicking him very accurately too, if he's doing that and Casbolt or Mobile Choa are chipping in with a couple, then Gold Coast is going to be very dangerous. And I think it's Ben King's presence for me that probably brings this group a little bit further up than, if you see Casbolt and you think serviceable, does the job, does what he needs to do, but then you have that X factor in Ben King that raises these two up. So if Gold Coast are going to do anything this year or in the next few years, Ben King's your focal point.
Absolutely. Back to JT for your 10.
Yeah, this is where I've got the North pair. I love Nick Larkey very, very much. I think he is going to be a really good footballer for them. And Ant said it perfectly. He'll either kick a bag of goals or he'll kick none. Like, it's always a 5 or 6 kind of job, or he kicks 0. But it's unbelievable. I don't know how he does it. And he is, I think, the one that carries this pair. And like he also said as well, like, this isn't really a key forward pairing. North play usually just the one, just in sort of this situation. And Cam Zohar kind of acts as that next tool. But for me, it's Zohar's kicking that hurts him. He's kicking at 37.9% at goal, which is not very good. And, he has 0.6 more shots than Larky a game, but he's kicked 8 goals less than him. So it's sort of just one of those things where he gets a lot of it, Zohar, and like, he has the potential to explode in games. He's one of those sort of guys that can have your 25 and 3 games, but he also has a lot of those games where he really struggles. North are, as we know, rebuilding and sort of trying to build off these players. And these two are obviously still young. They're still sort of building and making sort of more of a name for themselves. So if they can sort of work out how to sort of help in Zohar's kicking and sort of get Larky more involved as well, more consistently, they'll definitely take a step up. But yeah, I couldn't see them any higher than 10th.
Absolutely. Brando?
This is where I've got the West Coast pair, Allen and Darling. Oscar Allen's been outstanding, and he's the reason they've cracked top 10. 22 goals, could be more, could have used some better delivery, and West Coast have been destroyed across the park, really. So if they have a full strength team, he's getting better delivery, he's kicking even more goals. And as Ant touched on before, if he's in a better team, he's up there with Curnow and Cameron. So Oscar Allen's outstanding, nothing on him. Jack Darling obviously getting on a bit, but I think he's still a serviceable partner. Not much more I can say there really that you guys haven't said, but yeah, I put him at 10.
Absolutely. Get JT to kick us off with 9.
Yeah, so into the top half now, this is where I've got the Swans pair. Never did I think I'd sort of put a pairing with Buddy this low, like you were saying before, Jacko, but even 9th seems a little bit like a stretch. But yeah, Buddy's sort of absence, and then since he's sort of come back, he hasn't been as good as he has been. And, he's obviously aging, and this is sort of going to be the end of his career, the twilight, and a bit of a victory lap. But Logan McDonald I've actually been really impressed with. I think since he's come into the side, even though the Swans are sort of struggling a little bit, he's been a really good shining light for them, and he's kicking really well. He's kicking at 71.4%. So Logan has really sort of stepped up his game, and he needed to. There was a bit of pressure on him sort of at the start of the year to start making a bit of a move and a bit of a push up into that sort of forward line. Has to sort of take over from Buddy, and obviously Joel Marty's in one of those positions as well. Unfortunately, went down with injury, but yeah, he's been really impressive, and it sucks to put him this low. The fact that it's also because of Buddy is the fact that it sort of sucks to put him here, but yeah, I couldn't see him any better than ours.
Absolutely. Just touching on Logan McDonald, I forgot to say as well there, he's kicking, he benefits from not having Buddy in the side, which is interesting. Obviously, there's positives and negatives to both things, but I think he kicks multiple goals whenever Buddy isn't in the side. Then he benefits from not taking the best defender when Buddy plays. So it's just a really interesting conundrum they have there. Now, Jared, you spoke about throwing a spanner in things. This is where I'm going to throw an absolute wrench.
Okay.
I did my eye test. I think we all did an eye test rankings before we actually looked at numbers. And these guys were in my top 4 before I looked at numbers. And then I sort of took it apart, and there was just things I couldn't sort of look past.
I have a sneaky suspicion here because I think I've got the same. Next.
This is where I've got the Bulldogs. This is where I've got Aaron Norton and Jamarra Ugle-Hagan. Now, this sucked. This was really interesting. Because like I said, I had these guys top 4. They're going to be an incredible pairing in a few years' time. They will. Aaron Norton's great. 18 goals from 8 games. He's kicking at 2.3 a game. about 60%. He's taken the contested marks. That's what he's doing. What he does. He's 16th in the league for marks inside 50, and he's top 20 as well for contested marks. Now Jamara, he's a great footballer. He's going to be incredible. He had that phenomenal 5-goal haul against Brisbane, which was an incredible moment. We loved seeing it. But if you take that away, he's kicked 4 goals, 12 through 7 games. You take that away, he's kicking at 18%, which is the lowest by far out of these guys. I know you can't just take games in and out, but even you throw that game back in there, he's only kicking 32%. He's not giving the goal assists. He's not getting up the ground. He's taking a very small percentage. He's taking 15% of the team's shots, and he's shooting at 32%. Like, I think he's going to be absolutely incredible. He's going to be a star, and this sucks putting him that low. I took out that game, and the numbers were glaring, and it was really hard to look at. So take that as you will. We'll continue on with 9. I'll throw to Anthony after that little bomb.
I've got the Dogs pair in 9. This was both eye test and a couple of the stats, but I think it also comes down to how the Dogs have played. And I just think whilst the Dogs have been good in patches this year and they're starting to find a bit of touch at the moment, their key forwards aren't really taking the game by the scruff of the neck like we used to. Like Norton hasn't kicked a proper decent bag. We've seen the one from Ugle-Hagan against the Lions, but as you said, take it away. He's only kicked 4 goals, 12. But I think what can be justified is you can put them high because they're having those shots. But at the same time, you've got to be converting. And if you're not doing that, then you're looked over as a pairing. And I think it's justifiable that they're not.
Well, Brando, you want to wrap out our 9th here before we get into the top 8?
Yes, this is where I've got the Sydney pair. And as you both said, it was hard to put him here because obviously Buddy's a legend, probably the best key forward I've ever watched play live. But yeah, I think it was the body of work that even got them up to 9th because he's been a shell of his former self really this season. Yeah, and then in terms of Logan, very good on the eye test. He's got great potential and he's shown that on many occasions. But yeah, he's got a lot of work to do to match up to some of the key forwards I've got above him and Buddy. So yeah.
Very good. I'll just jump in here with number 8. I think I'm the last one to mention West Coast. Oscar Allen. I won't say too much. Oscar Allen, man, he's one of 2 players in the league to kick 2 goals every single week. The only other player is Jeremy Cameron. He is absolutely balling. I'll name this up myself. This East Coast bias. I did not even realize how well he's doing, but he is absolutely killing it. And I think Jack Darling, I'm not going to say he's tearing the game up, but I think he's doing enough. He's enough to bring these guys to the middle table. He's going at about 1.3 goals a game. He's kicking in 40%, which you'd probably want a little bit more, but he's being the big body up there. He's being the experienced forward. He doesn't have to be the guy anymore because they've got Oscar Allen for that. But I won't touch on that too much. Throw back to JT for his 8.
I've had a late change. I had another different team here, but I've made a swap. Now I'm going with the Gold Coast pair. I've sort of had a last little look. I think I'm the last person to go with the Gold Coast pair. I love Ben King, as I think we've all said. I think we've all said it. But yeah, he is a freak. And it's sort of, those King brothers can do some special things out in the field, and sort of having them together is having them both out there when they will both get out there is obviously a good sight to see. And Levi Casbolt, as much as, he used to get shit on a little bit in his Carlton days and sort of things like that, but I think he's been really serviceable. If I put it on a body of work as well, even last year, I think he was really serviceable. He has done more than enough for Gold Coast in his time there, and he doesn't have to be the main guy, and he knows that. He can let Ben King be the focal point. He can let him do what he needs to do, and he can just sit there and sort of take the rest of it. And they're both unbelievably accurate kicks at goal. 78.3%, 71.4%. King the first one, and then Casbolt the second. That's ridiculous. So they have been really, really good. And that's why I've got them sort of higher than the others. I think, Gold Coast have sort of been outperforming a little bit. They've had their good games and they've had their poor games, as we know. But I think, with both of them in the side, they're pretty good. So I've got the Gold Coast pair in 8.
Very good. Ant, you want to take us with your 8 spot?
I've got the Swans. I I think I still have a little bit of love for Buddy to suggest that they're a top 8 pairing. And it's not to say that he's not losing touch, because I think he's definitely on the downfall a little bit. But he still had 14 shots in 5 games, which is almost 3 shots a game. And if he converts those with, with precision, he's kicking 3 goals a game, and we're having a completely different conversation. You're always going to miss set shots. You're always going to have, games where you don't have, the game you want. And I think Buddy hasn't had that opportunity yet. And I think it also comes down to a bit of consistency for him. And we've seen that players, once they have consistency, Oscar Allen is a perfect example, comes in, he's playing in a team where they're not great, and he's kicking goals. Like if Buddy converts 2 goals, 1 a game, we're having a completely different conversation. If he's kicking that goal in the last quarter against the Pies, that's a completely different ball game. And yes, he's probably not at what he wants to be, but I still think he's got that game in him left where we're going to be like, there's the greatest showman. Like that's, and I'm not going to touch on McDonald because we know how well he's going at the moment. He's so impressive. So there's a little bit more respect for the Swans pairing. I think that's got to be given.
Absolutely, mate. Brando, back to you for 7.
Oh
Sorry.
boy.
Oh no,
I think it's
8.
right.
This is your 8. Yep.
Oh boy. For the second consecutive week, I'm the first to take the Brisbane pairing off the board.
A bit higher than what you had last week.
Way higher. And there's no risk of them toweling up my team this week after I say it. But
Okay, just please don't come for Brandon.
please. Danaher when he's on, he's just about up there with the best in the comp. But the problem is he's not consistent enough with that. But I love watching him when he's on. He's absolutely brilliant. We saw that in the Collingwood game where he was sort of drifting between the ruck and the forward line, and he was getting plenty of ball kicking goals. That's the Joe Danaher that I love to watch. Hitwood, I guess he's much of the same in the sense that he's pretty inconsistent, not as good statistically. When he's on, but I think the safe thing to do is to put them sort of in this top half of the middle section.
Yeah, very good, mate. I'll bounce back for you to get your 7.
Yes, my 7 is Hogan and Himmelberg. At the Giants, Jesse Hogan's brilliant. I really love Jesse Hogan. A lot of this was eye test for me, like Hogan and Himmelberg as a pairing. I love watching. He's really taken it to the next level this year. Great in the air, 6 marks a game, really solid in front of goal as well. He's averaging 2 goals and 5.8 score involvements as well. So he's getting around it. And then Himmelberg's been a solid partner as well. Nothing amazing, but just been good to watch. And as JT said before, really clutching those dying moments. So yeah, Giants for me in 7.
Very good. Anthony, back for you for 7.
Yeah, same. Hogan and Himmelberg. My boy, Jesse Hogan. I think he's had probably one of his best years to date in the last couple of years. I think he's really been impressive in terms of the way he's played. And I think him and Himmelberg as a duo have sort of given GWS an opportunity, especially under Kingsley. And they've got a little bit of a different pattern the way they go forward now. They have been very impressive. And I think with Himmelberg's role playing and Hogan's, if he converted a little bit more, I'd like it. But I think if they continue the way they're going, they're going to shock a few. They're a very hard matchup, and Himmelberg's that you can put him anywhere, down back, up forward, and the real swingman. And you love a good swingman up forward. And I've thoroughly enjoyed what they've done this year for the Giants. So good work, Himmelberger, and good work, Jesse Hogan.
Absolutely.
Continue on.
Can't wait to see Harry Himmelberg in the red and white next season.
Oh, no.
In 7 is where I've got North sitting in. Again, not much to say. I think I've just got him down here. I wanted to put him higher because we all love Nick Larkey, but I think the key forward aspect played into it. And as we all said, it's not a traditional key forward. We really didn't have anyone else to use. Charlie Compton's more of a ruck, and he went down injured. And Cam Zerha's the one they've always sort of used as a second key. Everyone's touched on Larkey. He kicks goals, he kicks bags, he kicks accurately. Cam Zerha is really good around the ball, I guess, because he plays more higher up the field and midfield. He's probably top 10 in this list, total list for score involvements. He's top 50 in the league for goal assists. But yeah, not much else to say for those ones. JT, round out our 7.
I think I'm the first team to say this pair, and it hurts a little bit to do it, but I'm going to go the Richmond pair in Tom Lynch and Jack Riewoldt. Now, in saying that, if Tom Lynch plays more than 4 games this year, they are probably top 4, because we know what Tom Lynch can do. Tom Lynch is the focal point of this attack now with Jack Riddle aging. Obviously, Lynch missing hurts them a lot, as we know. But I just think, based on sort of how they're going, they're not playing bad by any stretch. They still do what they need to do. They still kick the goals. They don't get a lot of goals just between them. That's sort of just how it is. They take enough marks inside 50. They do enough as a pairing. But I just think, just as they've sort of aged, as Riewoldt sort of aged a little bit, they've just struggled. I mean, it's been shown in the Richmond sort of record at the moment. Obviously, Lynch hasn't played as much, and Riewoldt's been forced to play with sort of the likes of Samson Ryan and Ben Miller up forward, who obviously are very young and still trying to sort of work their way in. So I just think, in terms of the duo, I have them this high because of their body of work, because we know what they can do as a pairing. But I just think this year they haven't been as impressive as they usually are. So I've got them in my 7th spot.
Absolutely. Ant, with your 6, we'll start with.
Yeah, this is where I've got Brisbane, Hipwood and Danaher. They've been a bit off this year, but they're still such a dangerous duo when they get their opportunities. And by God, do they have plenty of opportunities. And I think Danaher's accuracy has probably hurt him. This year in particular, Hipwood's actually been very impressive when he has had the footy, but hasn't had probably enough opportunities for himself personally. But you know, if you put it down to you're playing Brisbane, just put it this way: you play Brisbane at the Gabba on a Friday or Saturday night, and you've got Hipwood and Danaher you've got to man up against. Boy, oh boy, those white shorts aren't going to be so white after you're playing those two. So I think, yeah, it's a body of work. It's intimidation. It's presence up forward. It's the stats. You know, you can throw a whole combination of it. They're a top 6 duo. Probably could be. They could be as equal or better as Curnow and Mackay if they had the opportunity that, you know, that those two get.
That's a huge call. That is a massive call. I'm going to follow off the back of you here. I also have Brisbane. It's the end of their fairy tale run for me. Joe Danaher, Brando said it before, I think it's touched on before. Joe Danaher can be incredible at moments. He can have moments where he is absolutely, he looks $1 million. He looks like he's worth every penny you pay him. And then he can have other moments where he doesn't quite look as good. We all remember the play on the siren last season. Everyone, I could tell you to sit here and think of a Joe Danaher moment, and everyone can think of 3 different ones. Not to take anything away from him, he's still a star. He knows exactly what he's doing. You just put him up and around the ruck, he's incredible. Eric Hipwood is, I think he's still playing into it. He's a good second tall. He competes well in the Brisbane forward line. He obviously got him up to 6 in this pairing. They both work around the 50% mark, goal accuracy. Eric Hipwood's ended up with about 13 goals so far, going at 59%. He's averaging 1.6, 0.9 behinds as well. So they'll finish out in 6 for me. JT?
Yeah, in 6 for me is where I've got the Dogs pair. A bit of a fairy tale run with myself here for the Dogs, as we know my thoughts on them at times. But you know, they've done really well. These guys, I think I put them a bit higher because I really like to watch them play. These two, they're everything you want them sort of key forwards. They fly high. They go for the big sort of, you know, explosive moments. And Aaron Norton, as we've seen, he sort of really won them the game against the Giants on that Saturday night. He sort of took the game by the scruff of the neck towards the end there. And as we saw in that Jamara game against the Lions, where he just tore them apart throughout it. And, you know, like you say, you take that game away, that he hasn't had as good of a season. But, you know, he's still young and can still build. But I think that sort of pairing is one of those pairings that in a year, 2 years, they're going to be even more dangerous. But I've been really impressed with Norton. I think he had a lot of pressure on him, especially with the serious amount of key forward stocks that the Dogs currently have. You know, there was talk of throwing him down back, which I think would have been silly anyway. So the fact that he's sort of come out and had a pretty respectable season has sort of cemented his spot in that key forward spot. And yeah, I've got them up here just for that reason.
Very good. Brando, throw to you for your 6.
Yes, I also have Norton and Jamara in at 6. Eye test, they're outstanding. That's probably half the reason I've got them at 6. As JT said, I really love watching them play. Jamara's been a little off the pace aside from that 5-goal game, as you said, Jacko. But he's impressive when he's on. He's hard at it. I love him. I genuinely love him. And then Norton, obviously, he's himself up forward, still kicking bags of goals. He's doing a good job. So won't go on too much about it. But yeah, number 6.
Okay, we're here, lads. Top 5. This is where it gets serious. We start running through these full throttle. Throw to Anthony. Kick us off with your number 5.
This is where I've got the Richmond pair. I think, as JT said, Lynch. If he played more games, he'd probably be up there with probably Tom Hawkins. I'd say he averages 2.3 a game when he was playing those 4. So if he gets add another 4 games to that, he's right up there with in the Coleman race. So I think, and Richmond are definitely a better side. He's a definitely good kick at goal. Riewoldt complements him really well, and I'm glad Riewoldt's found a bit of touch because he was a little bit iffy in the first couple of games. But as a pairing, they're phenomenal. The body of work they have is absolutely superior, and I think their presence up forward. Riewoldt has his clutch moments, also has his other moments, and Tom Lynch is really just I don't know. He's almost the perfect key forward for me. Leads up, can kick a goal, creates a presence, impacts the contest. What more do you want? So I think a little bit harsh to put him 5th, but I'm going to put him there.
Bit like deja vu, mate. I'm going to follow you straight up again with Richmond. You've pretty much covered everything. I think when I said earlier that I've based it 99% off this season, I think this is where the bodywork came into it a little bit for Tom Lynch. These two have got flags. There's people out there that say Tom Lynch would have won the Coleman if it wasn't for his injury last year. People expected Tom Lynch to win the Coleman this year. These two are phenomenal. Ant said everything that needed to be said. I won't touch on it too more. Just these two are a very, very good pair, and they could very well have been higher if Tom Lynch doesn't get injured. Brando, with your 5?
I don't really know what to follow up with there because I've also got Riewoldt and Lynch. Yeah, look, it was tough to judge because, I mean, the body of work speaks for itself, as you both said. That's probably the reason they're still in the top 5 because Lynch has been out for so long now. But yeah, one thing I will add is that Riewoldt has been the number 1 target now that Lynch is gone. So that's probably skewed his stats a little bit because when Lynch is back, he'll be freed up more. I still think they're arguably the most intimidating duo in the league. So yeah, won't go on too much more because it's been said for the last 5 minutes now. But yeah, Lynch and Riewoldt.
Very good. JT, with your 5, round us out here.
Yeah, so I've got the Brisbane pair that's been said before, obviously Danaher and Hipwood. I haven't got much more to add on top of what everyone said. I think he's Joe Danaher. He can have those games where he really turn it on, and then he has those games where he doesn't. And Hipwood, I think you said a perfect second forward for him. He's just got enough to sort of be able to really sort of trouble those teams with the poor key defensive duos. If you check out the video, those bottom sort of 4 sides. But yeah, they've got enough firepower, and like you said, you put them at the Gabba. And that's a very tough pairing, and then you pair it with the rest of their forward line. It's ridiculous. And I think, if I'm not wrong, we now all have the same 4 teams in the top 4, but just we don't know what orders yet. So
yeah,
there we go.
I think so. So we've done very well here. We were all so scared about what was going to happen.
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
Can I just say I'm very, very happy, and you all know why.
Yeah, you love those Adelaide Crows, don't you?
Get fogged.
It's top 4. I mean, we've all got the same top 4. I love to see Anthony happy. I'm going to bring it down a little bit because this is where Port leads for me. They've landed in 4. They're just two. Charlie Dixon and Todd Marshall. They're just 2 classic key forwards. They lead up. They mark the ball. They kick the goal. It's what they do. It's what you need to do. Charlie Dixon obviously kicked his 13 so far this season. Todd Marshall's kicked his 11. They're both averaging sort of mid to high 1 point X amount of numbers, goals per game. They're both kicking reasonably accurately. Where it slightly falls down for me is something about a big man giving goal assist that I really like to see. Obviously, we've had Buddy do that for so long. We've had Tom Hawkins, who will come up later, who's a specialist at doing this. These two are both averaging 0.4 goal assists a game, which you don't need them to do in that team. So it's very picky on my part. But yeah, you guys are obviously going to talk about Port, so I'll move on to Brando here.
Well, I've got Adelaide in at 4th. Taylor Walker and Darcy Fogarty. Walker ages like fine wine. Like, he is so important to that team's structure, so trustworthy in front of goal. He's just so impressive to watch. Like, on the eye test just by itself, I love watching play. That's probably the main reason that he's there. And then Fogarty's developing amazingly. Athletic, great eye for goal. When he's at his best, he's so damaging. It's a joke. Like I touched on Gather Round last week when I saw the Adelaide back two tear up Carlton. I saw Taylor Walker and Fogarty at the other end tear up Carlton as well. He's outstanding, and he's going to develop into potentially the outright best in the comp at his age. So make of that what you will, but Adelaide fourth for me.
Absolutely. Straight into Ant.
Yeah, I've got the Adelaide pairing as well. Fogarty's a very, very impressive unit. I think unit is a very good word to describe that man because he's just built like a brick shithouse. He just stands there. He takes those clunking marks. He's a very good lead up forward. He's a clutch kick, averaging 59% at goal. And we saw that against Hawthorn. Like he can kick that moment when he needs to. And Taylor Walker complements that. We know how much of a workhorse he is and how much of a presence, the heart and soul probably of the Adelaide Crows. And I think they're both kicking goals. I think Taylor Walker's kicked 18 and Fogarty kicked 13, which is probably a little bit lower than I expected. But he's only played the 6 games. So you get a bit more continuity into him. And I think the one thing as well that they probably struggle a little bit with is the better teams. And that's probably due to the delivery inside 50 and how well the opposition structure up against them. So they'd be pushing a top 3, top 2 unit in the next couple of years. I know Walker's probably going to fall away with his age eventually, but then you've got Riley Philpott coming through. So if one falls out, one comes in, they're just going to be a very, very good forward line for years to come.
Very good. Now, JT, you going to side with these two or side with me to even it up at 4?
I'm coming with you, Jacko. I'm going to go.
Boy.
I've got the Port pair in this one. I just think, as we know, Port have been really impressive this year, and it's off the back of a lot of work from these two. Charlie Dixon is one of, if not the strongest player in the league. He can just bully players just for the fun of it. He does it just because he can. Mark Fitness step around him, but it's just like it's something to behold with Charlie Dixon. And Todd Marshall is on the other end where he can sort of just lead out and use that sort of reach to really take some good marks and keep those goals. But this pairing is obviously really fun, and they complement each other really well. And they sort of they sit in that high up in the ladder because of how this pairing is going, and they do really well to sort of use the likes of Rosie and Boak and Humphreys getting it inside 50, and they make sure that they earn it. They make sure that the ball stays in there. They make sure the ball, they're actually making sure they can get towards it and kick those goals. If not kick the goals, Dixon sort of struggled a little bit with his kicking, but Tom Marshall's been a bit more impressive in that way. So yeah, these guys are unbelievable, but I couldn't quite put them above my top 3.
Very good. Jump straight back over to Brando. Do you want to kick us off with your 3rd?
I do. This is where I have Dixon and Marshall. I love Charlie Dixon. He's been outstanding. I think he's definitely in that sort of form where we were seeing it during the 2021 season where he was, I don't remember, was he All-Australian? Ant, you tell me?
Yeah, he was
All-Australian.
Forward.
Yeah, I think numbers-wise, he's looking sort of at that level, like just under 2 goals a game, pretty much what he was averaging that year. 6.9 score involvements, brilliant in the contest. Works very hard around the ground. A stat I like is he's averaging a contested possession rate of 67.6. That's the highest of any key forward we have listed out of the 36. So he's working really hard for his ball. In terms of Todd Marshall, I guess he's one of the best up-and-coming forwards in the comp, and it's that simple. 4 in round 1, 7 for the remaining 6. So not outstanding numbers by any means, but the upside's definitely there, and they're a great duo. So
very good. Now, Ant had a little giggle when you mentioned him, so I want to throw to him and see if he's got Port ending here. He is? Okay, I'll let you go here, Ant.
Yeah, you can't put these two, as much as I'd love to put them in the top 2, I can't put them in the top 2. I've got them top 3. Now, you can throw stats into this, but I think watching them for the last few years and the presence these two have, something I've really learnt is that when Todd Marshall plays with Charlie Dixon, they become next level. They complement each other so well. I think I saw a comment the other day after the game that Charlie Dixon is like the Treehouse of Horror episode of The Simpsons, whereas Todd Marshall is a standard episode of The Simpsons. Like, it's just 2 completely different characters. They're just very unique. I love the stat of 6.9 score involvements for Dixon because it's not just him. He creates the contest. Like, he'll have 5 people hanging on him, and then you've got the Rioli. You've got Rosie, Butters, whoever else is at his feet kicking goals. Marshall, I think a stat was thrown up that he's the best set shot on goal over the last couple of years or something. He's averaging for his career, I think, higher than Plugger Lockett. which is about 78% or something like that, is what I heard. So I'm not going to quote that directly, but I think it's a decent enough stat to say. And we've seen him kick goals from boundaries. I think those two, they probably haven't kicked the goals that they probably would have liked this year, but that comes down to Finlayson kicking goals. Our Smalls are kicking goals, and that's probably off the back of big Charlie Dixon. And you did mention the contested possession stat for Charlie. That's because he's got the biggest hands I've ever seen. That man has huge hands. He sticks them into a contest and drags the ball out, and there's 3 people hanging off of him. I can't believe what I witnessed when I watched Charlie
dinner
Dixon.
plates, big old dinner
Literally,
plates.
the dinner plate. They've got the microwave meals hanging off of them. Like, it's absurd. But just to finish up, Charlie Dixon is the heart and soul of Port Adelaide. Todd Marshall is the future of Port Adelaide, and with these two, I think Port are going to be very damaging for the next couple of years.
Okay, JT, I'll let you go here with your 3.
I mean, yeah, there's no other team I could put it other than Adelaide, I think. This duo, other than the team that I have number 1, they're so fun to watch, man. Like, I love watching these two play so much. Tex Walker, I don't know how he's doing it. This man, like, he seems to just get better as the time goes on, and I don't know when he's going to stop getting better. But he's also, the thing with Tex is he's developed his game so much as just not even a key forward anymore. He's really good around the ground. And he like makes that impact sort of everywhere. And you see him around the ground, and he's surprisingly, he's mobile, and he's really good skills, and he knows what he's doing. So Tex is the perfect sort of mentor as well for Fogarty, who, as we've seen, is explosive. He has all the highlight packages, but he also just gets shit done. Just gets things done. He does what he needs to do. And, he kicks the goals that he needs to. Adelaide are very good this year based off that. They're absolutely terrifying me because we play them there in, a few days' time. And that's going to be a really scary matchup. But, those guys are just really good. They both kick over 50%. And, just as a duo themselves, they 4.5 goals per game combined, 4.8 marks inside 50 combined, 5.7 goal contributions. They are very good. And they're sort of paired with, you pair them with the other forwards in their lineup with Rochelle and Rankin, and that is potent. Very, very potent.
Absolutely. I'm not going to repeat anything that hasn't already been said. No surprises here. I'm also going with Adelaide. That forward line is just so fun to watch in general, and just expanding it past those two. But a stat you'll hear me mention a few times over this next one is that the amount of times a player kicks a goal when a team goes inside 50. Tex and Fog are combined 3rd in the league. It's about every 9% of the time when the Crows go inside forward 50, it finishes in one of these two kicking a goal. That's 5% for Tex and 4 for Fogarty. That's a big number. When you can be going in, when you're going inside 50 10 times, one of these two will score. You'll take that every time. We're in the top 2 now. I'm going to make a little prediction here. We started with 2 back-to-back quaddies. I'm going to make the big call and say we're going to finish with 2, because I'll throw to Brando. If I'm right, I'm going to throw to Brando and let him chat first.
It would be so convenient if I put my boys top. Nah, I've got Charlie Curnow and Harry Mackay at 2. Charlie really explains itself. Charlie's such a natural, dominant key forward. I think when certain other players dominate across the ground, we'll talk about one particular later. Charlie's just a pure full forward. I feel so safe watching him, and I'm stressed a lot. But he's just amazing. And then Harry's obviously where it gets hard. I mean, he hasn't been anywhere near as good as what we know he's capable of in front of goal. What saves him is that he's still a leader around the ground. 8.3 marks a game, 2.8 of those are contested. That's the 3rd best in the comp. Charlie is one of the 2 above him. So important when it comes to Colin's ball movement. Some of the link-up play that spawns from Harry's moves up the ground, I can almost guarantee that Harry not being in that side, we're instantly worse, despite his shortcomings in front of the sticks. So, not much more to say on them, but I put my boys 2nd.
Okay, Jared, we'll bounce back to you here, mate.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the same thing here. It's those 2 are very, very fun to watch. I love Charlie Curnow especially. Harry, as Brando said, has kind of struggled this year, but yeah, his work around the ground is really good. Contested marking is still amazing. He's still elite with that. Charlie's 1st in the league. He takes 3 a game, and Harry's 3rd. He takes 2.8. So that sort of just speaks for themselves in the fact that they can still take a mark. Obviously, Harry struggled kicking wise, but they know what they're doing. And then even Mark's inside 50 as well. Charlie's second, he's got 3.6, and Harry's eighth, 2.9. So they know exactly what they're doing. And they are sort of that. This is almost like a body of work kind of situation in terms of we know what Harry can do. Charlie is still doing what Charlie can do, but we know what Harry can do on his day. So it's a little bit of body of work that I put him in second. But I think probably this year, I think the Adelaide pair has been better than them. Just based like the pair has been better than them. But I think because of what we know Harry can do, I'm going to put them above the Adelaide pair. But yeah, I can't really say much more.
Absolutely. Ant, I'll let you go here, mate.
Yeah, Carlton. And I'll simply just sum it up by saying JT said the same thing. They know what they're doing. So they're second for me. I'm not going to touch on it too much. I mean, they're two Coleman medalists. They're just sensational players. And if Harry Mackay was probably kicking a couple more goals and not belling it every so often, I reckon they'd be top.
Very good. Now, the beauty of hosting is I can put myself last here, which means I can go first for the boys we've got first and take precedent there. I've also got Carlton here, not going to mess around. Just going back to that goals per inside 50, these guys do it at 10%, so they're second in the league combined. Charlie Curnow, 7.5% of the time when the Blues go inside forward 50, Charlie Curnow kicks a goal. That's absurd. That's the highest in the league. 7.5%. That's the highest in the league for percentage. He's just so good. Harry Mackay is obviously 3%. People can say he's having a bit of a down year, but what he's doing around the ground, I think Brendo touched on it before, is making up for all those facts. These two are obviously the pair is second for combined goal averages, second for marks inside 50, and they're second for goals contributed in total. So I'm not going to mess around there. Which leaves us with the one spot. We've got 4 quaddies in total. We're not going to mess around. Just like last week, I'm just going to have a little bit of spiel. I'll try to talk about some more niche numbers so you guys can still chat. It's not going to take as much convincing as my team last week. Make sure you go check that one out and let us know what you think about that one. But Geelong, man, these guys, they tore the Swans a new one last year in the grand final, and things haven't changed. Jeremy Cameron is the best player in the league. I will say it in any piece of content I can. He is so good. Jeremy Cameron is second in the league for goals per inside 50. He kicks one at 7.4% of the time. The Cats go inside forward 50, and Tom Hawkins is 5% of the time. So that's 12% of the time when they go inside 50, the Cats are kicking a goal. It is absolutely absurd. They're kicking 7 goals between them a game. They're taking 8 marks inside 50 between them a game, and they're contributing to almost 10 goals every single game. Like those, obviously that's those goal assists could be mixed towards each other, but it is just absurd. Jeremy Cameron is taking 3.6 marks inside 50. Tom Hawkins taking 4.5. It's the highest in the league, and Jeremy Cameron's second. This pairing is just so good and has such a good synergy. It's some of the best football to watch. I don't care who you support. Watching these two in full flight is a thing of beauty. That's all I'm going to say. I hope I didn't take too many of your guys' numbers. I'll throw back to JT here.
Yeah, I mean, I've got nothing else to say. I've been on this Jeremy Cameron best player in the league business for a while, as we know, and it's starting to catch on pretty much everywhere. I think everyone's sort of realised now that this is the best player in the league because of what he's doing here. But you put him by himself and he's amazing. You put him with Tom Hawkins and it's unbelievable. I mean, the stats show for themselves the disparity between the goal contributions. They have 9.3. The closest to them is 6.6 in Carlton, and the rest are sort of within 2 of each other. Geelong are far and wide above them, and it's just ridiculous to watch, as we know. Jeremy Cameron is one of those players where no matter how bad Geelong are playing, or whatever Geelong are at the time, Jeremy Cameron will be on, and he will do everything he can to drag himself into that side. The perfect example is that Carlton game. You know, Carlton won by 8 points. Jeremy Cameron almost single-handedly won in that game. Kicked 6, had 25. Like, he does what he needs to do. And at the start of the year, Hawkins sort of seemed a little bit injured as he sort of had that injury in the preseason. He seemed a little bit hampered by it. But then as the year's gone by, he's just gone back into the Tom Hawkins that we all know. You know, they always kick true. They know exactly what they're doing. There's a reason they are premiers, and they're just holding on to that. And I think when this sort of idea for the video came out, you could have penciled this in from ages ago. And there was no change in this one.
Absolutely. Anthony, you want to have your little spiel?
These two scare me. Like, they're that good. You talk about how good they are. They frighten the hell out of me. Every time Port play Geelong, I'm sitting there going, well, they're going to kick 10. So, like, this is ridiculous. Like, it's unfair that Geelong have these two. And the fact that they've got the best player in the comp is ridiculous. And also, they've got the big bull in Tom Hawkins, who just has everyone hanging off his massive head. Like, yeah, that's my spiel. They're just ridiculous. They're good players. And that's why Geelong premiers last year. And that's why they're probably going to contend again this year, because Geelong have Jeremy Cameron and Tom bloody Hawkins.
Very good. Brando, round us out, mate. What have you got that none of us have touched on?
Jeez, I'm going to throw a curveball here. Subscribe if you're not subscribed already, because this is outstanding stuff here. I've got the Cats number 1.
Shocking.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, look, Jeremy Cameron is the best player in the game. We've all said it. He's just outstanding. He's continually proving why he's the best player in the game. Not going to go too far into stats. We've all done it. Tom Hawkins, much like Taylor Walker, as I said before, ages like fine wine. And the beauty of these two is if Cameron's ever off or even just playing average, Tom Hawkins will come out and kick 8 goals. It is ridiculous. So, yeah, he's elite in the contest, constantly getting around at 8.1 scoring moments a game, 4th in the league for goals as well when Cameron is first. So they're both outstanding together, and they're outstanding individual, and they're probably going to win the flag again. So that's all I've got.
Very good.
No.
The other thing we didn't mention about Tom Hawkins is what I try to point about with Buddy. He averages 1.5 goal assists a game. That's 3rd in the league. So he's kicking him, but he's also setting him up. He's just phenomenal. It's crazy. That's got us to the end of this one. I'm really sorry, Jared. I couldn't follow through and put Caminiti at 1 like I told you I was going to do last week.
I was going to say, do we have a surprise appearance from Anthony Caminiti and Zane Cordy? Is that what's happening? Is they just going to come in and just knock Geelong off the top 5? Is that what's happening here?
They could. The hammer's been great. Zane Cordy's okay. Just not. We chose the other pair for a reason.
Right, they'll got the money in the bank briefcase. They'll just wait. They'll buy their time.
They're just maybe we should do a ranking of the best second key forward.
The best third and fourth.
Hang on. If that's the case, Jeremy Finlayson and Ollie Lord have a case.
Hang on.
All
Who
right.
have we got? Jack Savani and Harry Lemmy.
Okay. Look, while you're all talking about it, Hayden McLean and Aaron Francis. Bear with me.
Get with me, guys.
Okay, so
It's all about the body of work for them.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, it is. Look, if Joel Amati wasn't injured, he'd be right up there. He's incredible. He's going to be one to watch. Let me stop my Sydney propaganda. It has been a pleasure to sit around and chat with you blokes about footy again. I cannot wait to do it next week. We haven't locked in what position we're going to do next week. If you have an opinion, comment down below. Let us know what you want us to do. We might do ruck combinations or midfield combinations, something along the lines. We could always do small forwards.
I vote the wingers. I vote we do wing
We
duels.
want to do the wingers. So that's just an example of all the ones we have to come. So we've got plenty of weeks left of this. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Check out theinnersanctum.com for all the other different articles we have. Plenty of other different writers doing their job. This has been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to chatting to you guys next week. See you then.